Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be fun. This is going to be science fiction. How many Grand Slams would Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal have if Novak Djokovic wouldn't be a tennis player? Now, first of all, I am starting off from 2008 because, yes, technically I should start rewriting the tennis history books from 2003 or at least from 2007 because, yes, Novak played that US Open final back in 2007 against Roger Federer. But in real life, when you think about it, who would be his replacement? Probably David Ferrer. Do you honestly think that David Ferrer would beat Roger Federer in the 2007 US Open final? The answer is no. Therefore, I found it pointless to start rewriting every single Grand Slam from 2003 because the results and the outcomes would be completely the same. Now, you can clearly see Roger Federer 12, Rafael Nadal 3. The biggest problem with this video is that we cannot technically we can know the seedings without Novak Djokovic. But if there is no Novak Djokovic, the seedings are different, which means that every single first round matchup is different, which means that we don't know which upsets happen or not, we don't know which injuries happen or not, we don't know which disqualifications because you hit the line judge with a tennis ball happen or not. Therefore, it's complete chaos. The way I tried to fix it is the following. Let's just pretend that Novak forfeited every single first round match at every single Grand Slam, but somehow he managed to keep his ranking. Something like Roger Federer does in the 2020 and the 2021 campaign because he doesn't even play tennis and he keeps his ranking. Nevertheless, let's get right into this video. Novak Djokovic beat Roger Federer in reality at the 2008 Australian Open semifinals. But what would happen if Novak wouldn't be a tennis player? Who would face off with Roger Federer in that match? Well, the easy, low-hanging fruit type of answer would be David Ferrer because David Ferrer played Novak in the quarterfinals. But in reality, there would be a whole gauntlet match between Benjamin Becker, Simone Bolelli, Sam Querrey, Leighton Hewitt, and David Ferrer to earn the rights to face Roger Federer in the semifinals. Now, for Benjamin Becker to reach the semifinals, he only has to beat Simone Bolelli, Sam Querrey, Leighton Hewitt, and David Ferrer. For example, for Sam Querrey, he has to beat Leighton Hewitt and David Ferrer. You get the logic behind it. I think, personally, it would be David Ferrer, and he would proceed to lose against Roger Federer in the semifinals, quite possibly with a score of 3-0. Now, Federer is in the finals, and in the other semifinal is Tsonga and Nadal. Novak Djokovic has no impact whatsoever on Rafael Nadal losing against Jo-Wilfried Tsonga. Therefore, it's Tsonga and Federer in the finals, and I do think that Tsonga would have a competitive match, but I think that Roger would beat him, quite possibly with a score of 3-1. Therefore, here's a dub. Roger, 3 straight Australian Opens, 4 out of 5, and Rafa with the semifinals, so it's 13-3. Now, let's go to France, Roland Garros. Now, Novak played Rafa and lost to Rafa 3-0 in the semifinals. Now, if there is no Novak, who plays Rafa in the semifinal? Quite possibly Ernest Gulbis. Now, do I think that Ernest Gulbis could be the first, or could become at that moment, the first human being to defeat Rafael Nadal at the clay of the French Open? No. The answer is no. He was really talented, but yeah, no. Therefore, Rafa is in the final against Roger, and the match stays absolutely the same. 6-1, 6-3, 6-0. Here's the final Roger. Here's a dub Rafa. Here's a number 4. Now, let's go to the 2008 Wimbledon. Novak didn't really have an impact here. He lost in the second round against Marat Safin. And yes, Marat Safin did play Roger Federer in the semifinals. So there possibly is a crazy butterfly effect that would somehow flip the scenario. And Roger would win his 6th straight Wimbledon. But now let's not go there. Roger Federer loses to Rafael Nadal in an epic 5-setter. Therefore, 13-5 in the major race. Now let's go to America. US Open 2008. So Federer beat Novak in the semifinals 3-1. Now, if there is no Novak, it's quite possible that Andy Roddick faces off with Roger Federer. Now, would Andy Roddick be a tougher opponent? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it would be 3-2. Maybe he would beat Roger Federer, but I don't think so. So I think Roger is still in the final. He still plays Andy Murray, and he still beats him 3-0. Here's a dub Roger. Here's semifinal Rafa, because Rafa lost in the semifinal to Andy Murray, and again, nothing to do with Novak Djokovic, so it's 14-5. Now let's go to Australia 2009. So Novak Djokovic forfeited in the quarterfinals against Andy Roddick. He was losing 2-1 and then he forfeited the match. Now, if there is no Novak, it's quite possible that Marcos Baghdatis plays Andy Roddick in the quarterfinal, and then the winner of that match faces off against Roger Federer. So there's a possibility that Baghdatis beats Roddick and then plays Federer, but do you think that Baghdatis could beat Federer in the semifinals? No, I think it's still the same. It's still Rafa and Roger, and this time Rafa comes out on top. So here's a final Roger, here's a dub Rafa, here's a 14-6. Now let's go to the 2009 Roland Garros. So these three were completely separated because Novak lost in the third round to Philipp Kohlschreiber, Rafa lost in the fourth round to Robin Soderling, and then Federer won the tournament after beating Robin Soderling. So yeah, everything stays the same. This is really easy. Here's a dub Roger, here's a fourth round Rafa, so it's 15-6, quite of an advantage to Mr. Roger Federer. Now the 2009 Wimbledon was kind of weird. So Djokovic lost against Tommy Haas in the quarterfinals. So if there is no Djokovic, you can say that somebody like a Dudi Sela could face off with Tommy Haas, and Tommy Haas would have an easier day. So Tommy Haas would be a little bit fresher against Roger Federer in the semifinal. So therefore, he could maybe torture Roger Federer, take away a set or two. So Roger Federer wouldn't be as fresh in the final against Andy Roddick as he was in reality. So maybe he loses his focus in the fifth set and maybe Andy Roddick beats him. A lot of maybes. That's actually quite possible when I think about it. But I still have Roger Federer winning, and of course Rafael Nadal didn't defend his crown. He wasn't playing. So here's a dub Roger, here's a 16-6. Now, I was talking about these crazy butterfly effects, and I think in 2009, or at the 2009 US Open, it finally comes true. So Federer was playing Djokovic in the semifinal. It was 3-0. Let's be fair, 3-0. 7-6, 7-5, 7-5. So it was a competitive match. Roger Federer must have felt some pressure because Novak did beat him at the Australian Open 2008 semifinal. So he kind of knew that, okay, this kid is dangerous. But if there is no Novak, it's possible that Fernando Verdasco or Radek Stepanek plays Roger Federer in the semifinals. So do you think that Roger would feel the same amount of pressure? No, I think it would be a much easier day for Roger. And I'm saying this because he played a really razor-thin decision 5-setter against Juan Martín del Potro, which he lost. He lost 2 tiebreaks, the second set tiebreak and the fourth set tiebreak. If he wins the second set tiebreak, he wins the match. If he wins the fourth set tiebreak, he wins the match. So therefore, I think there was a Novak effect. And I think that if there is no Novak, Roger Federer does beat Juan Martín del Potro in the 2009 US Open final. But Delpo fans, please don't feel bad. Delpo will win a Grand Slam in my crazy scenario. So here's the dub Roger. And of course, Rafael Nadal stays the same. Semi-final loss to Juan Martín del Potro 6-2, 6-2, 6-2. So it's 17-6. At this moment. The 2010 season started off with the Australian Open. One side of the draw featured Rafael Nadal and Andy Murray facing off in the quarterfinals. Andy was up 2-0 and then Rafa forfeited the match. Of course, nothing to do with Novak. But the other side featured a quarterfinal rematch of the 2008 real-life final, Joe-Wilfried Tsonga, Novak Djokovic, and Joe actually got his revenge. He beat Novak Djokovic. Now, if there is no Novak, it would mean that somebody like a Lukas Kubot faces Joe-Wilfried Tsonga in the quarterfinals, which would mean that there is a possibility for a quote-unquote easier day in the office, which would mean that he would be fresher against Roger Federer. Now, would that make a difference? Would Tsonga beat Federer in the semifinals? I don't think so. In real life, it was 3-0 Federer, and then Federer proceeded to beat Murray 3-0 in the final. So I think everything stays pretty much the same. Here's a dub Roger. Here's a quarterfinal Rafa, 18-6. Already 18 slams for Roger Federer. Now the Roland Garros was really easy. Federer lost to Soderling 3-1 quarterfinals. Djokovic lost to Meltzer 3-2 quarterfinals, and then Nadal beat Meltzer, and then he beat Soderling in a convincing fashion. So Rafael Nadal, 5th French Open, 7th major overall. Everything stays the same, 18-7. Now let's go to the Wimbledon. Federer lost to Berdy 3-1, which wasn't that much of a surprise because Federer was really struggling during the whole tournament. He lost 2 sets in the first round and additional set in the second round. and then Berdych proceeded to beat Djokovic in the semifinal 3-0. Now, if there is no Djokovic, it means that it's a possibility that Lu Yen-sun or Leighton Hewitt play Tomáš Berdych in the semifinals. Now, could Leighton Hewitt beat Tomáš Berdych and then beat Rafael Nadal? Or could, Berdych be more relaxed, spend less energy, and then beat Rafael Nadal in the final? No, I don't think so. I think everything stays the same. Roger quarterfinal, Rafael Nadal dub. It's 18-8. Now let's go to the US Open. Now this has plenty of correlations because Federer and Djokovic played that epic semifinal in which Novak saved 2 match points. So if there is no Djokovic, it's quite possible that Federer plays Gael Monfils in the semifinal. So yeah, Federer is winning that match. Therefore, for the first time ever at US Open, Nadal and Federer play a match. And I think that Nadal wins. So this might be controversial, but I think Rafael Nadal was just special in 2010. He was motivated to win every single slam at least once. So therefore, I think it's 3-2 Rafa at Flushing Meadows. So Federer final, Rafael Nadal victory, 18-9. Now let's go to 2011. This is going to be crazy because that was Novak's year. Now let's start off with Australia. Djokovic beat Federer 3-0. Nadal lost to David Ferrer in the quarterfinals 3-0. So Nadal, of course, stays the same. But Federer, if there is no Djokovic, would play Tomáš Berdych in the semifinals and then play Andy Murray in the finals. Basically, a really similar scenario to 2010. And again, I think Roger Federer would win. So Roger Federer, here's a dub. Rafael Nadal stays the same. It's 19-9. Now, 2011 Roland Garros featured Roger Federer beating Novak Djokovic 3-1 in the semifinals, and then Rafael Nadal beating Roger Federer 3-1 in the finals. Now, if there is no Novak, Federer would play somebody like a Fognini or a Gasquet in the semifinal, which means quite possibly an easier day. Now, would Roger Federer be fresher for Rafael Nadal? It was actually sort of a competitive match in the final. It was 3-1 long sets. So maybe there is an opportunity, but it's really, I think stupid, that's the word that I'm looking for, to say that Roger Federer would beat Rafael Nadal in that scenario if he would be a little bit fresher. Yeah, I think everything stays the same. I think Roger final. I think Rafael Nadal dub. I think it's 19-10 in this moment. Now, Wimbledon 2011. Federer blew a 2-0 lead to Gilles-Wilfried Tsonga in the quarterfinals, so he's done. Rafael Nadal lost 3-1 against Novak Djokovic. Now, if there is no Novak Djokovic, there's quite possible a semifinal between Gilles-Wilfried Tsonga and Bernard Tomic. So is Tsonga quite possibly fresher going into the final against Rafael Nadal? And this was actually tough for me to pick because Tsonga keeps showing up. If there is no Novak, Tsonga keeps being in these finals and semifinals. So at some point, I think Tsonga has to win. But it's not the 2011 Wimbledon. I think Rafa pulls it out. I think it's 3-2 Rafael Nadal versus Gilles-Wilfried Tsonga in that final. I think it would be an epic match. But I think that Rafael Nadal would win that Wimbledon. So therefore, 19-11. And now the US Open. So Novak beat Roger Federer 3-2 epic semifinals. And then he beat Nadal 3-1. If there is no Novak Djokovic, it means that Roger Federer faces off with either Janko Tipsarevic or Alexander Dolgopolov in the semifinals. So that's really easy for Roger. Therefore, he plays Rafa in the finals, and I think he avenges his previous year imaginary loss, and I think Roger Federer beats Rafael Nadal and wins his 20th major at the 2011 US Open. Imagine that. So the 2012 season started off with a bang. Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, 5 hours, 53 minutes, epic final. But if there is no Novak, who is the second finalist? Because obviously the first finalist is Rafael Nadal. He beat Roger Federer 3-1. Therefore, here is an SF to Mr. Federer. Now, the second finalist is obviously Andy Murray. Andy Murray took Novak to 5 sets in the semifinals. He deserves to be in the finals. Now, do I think that Andy Murray had a chance? Yes, he had a chance, but I just cannot take away that tournament from Rafael Nadal, because if there ever was a tournament which needed two winners, it was the 2012 Australian Open. Both Novak and Rafa rightfully deserved to win that tournament. It was an epic match, so I just cannot take it away from Rafa. Therefore, here's a dub, and it's 20-12. Now, let's go to France. This is interesting. Novak beat Roger Federer in the semifinals 3-0. Now, if there is no Novak, could Roger make the finals, or could he perhaps even beat Rafael Nadal? No, I think that Jo-Wilfried Tsonga would beat Roger Federer, because Tsonga lost to Djokovic 3-2. It was a close match, and Federer was really struggling against Del Potro. Therefore, Tsonga had an easier day, and he faces Roger Federer, and I think he beats Roger Federer in the final. Now, could Tsonga beat Rafael Nadal in the final? No. I'm so sorry. Jo-Wilfried Tsonga is beginning to look like a Andy Murray, but I think that Rafael Nadal just cannot lose to Jo-Wilfried Tsonga at the French Open final, therefore 20-13. Now let's go to Wimbledon. Rafa obviously lost in the second round to Lucas Russell, and Roger Federer actually beat Novak Djokovic in the semifinals 3-1. And then, of course, Roger Federer beat Andy Murray. So if there is no Novak, who does face Roger Federer in the semifinals? Florian Mayer, obviously even an easier task for Roger Federer. He's even more fresh against Andy Murray, so basically everything stays the same. Therefore, there's a W, therefore there's a second round, so this is the 21st Roger Federer major. Now let's go to the 2012 US Open. The final was Andy Murray, Novak Djokovic. Rafael Nadal wasn't on the tournament, and Roger Federer lost against Tomasz Berdych in the quarterfinals. So no real correlation whatsoever. Now, if there is no Novak, I think Del Potro would face Murray in the finals. Now, who would win that match? I'm not sure. I think it's a coin flip, but nevertheless, it's not even that important in this scenario. It's important that Roger lost in the quarterfinals. There is no slams, so we can proceed to go to 2013. And obviously, as you can see, Rafael Nadal didn't participate at the 2013 Australian Open. Roger Federer lost in the semifinal against Andy Murray, so obviously everything stays the same. And would it be Wawrinka Murray in the final? I'm not sure. Obviously, if there is no Novak, it would be probably Wawrinka and Murray, and probably Stan Wawrinka would beat Andy Murray. Or would Andy Murray beat Stan Wawrinka? I'm not sure. It's really not even important at this moment. So let's go to the 2013 Roland Garros. So Federer lost to Tsonga in the quarterfinal. Again, if we are going with the scenario in which Roger Federer lost to Tsonga in the 2012 semifinal. So there's a quarterfinal here. And Nadal obviously won the tournament. And Djokovic played Nadal in the semifinals. It was, I think, one of my favorite, if not the favorite tennis matches of all time. I talked about that match in this video. It should pop up right now. But nevertheless, it would be Tommy Haas facing Rafael Nadal in the semifinal. Yeah, easy work for Rafa, so everything stays the same. Tommy Haas wouldn't beat Rafael Nadal. So yeah, here's a dub. Here is 14 for Rafael Nadal. Now let's go to Wimbledon. Now this Wimbledon was crazy. Rafael Nadal lost in the first round to Steve Garces. Roger Federer lost in the second round to Sergei Stakhovsky. Now, obviously, everything stays the same. Andy Murray would face not Novak Djokovic, quite possibly Juan Martín del Potro in the final. So I think if they play twice, it's 1-1. One of them wins the 2012 US Open, the other one wins the 2013 Wimbledon. So here are plenty of opportunities for Juan Martín del Potro. And it's really weird to see these guys, Tsonga, del Potro, Murray, playing in so many finals. It's amazing. If there is no Novak, there are so many B+, quote-unquote B+ importance players that are just suddenly playing in multiple semifinals and finals. It's crazy. And let's go to the 2013 US Open. It was Rafael Nadal beating Novak Djokovic in the final. And of course, Roger Federer losing to Tommy Robredo in the fourth round. So, Rafa beating Novak. Obviously, who would play against Rafa if there is no Novak? Stan Wawrinka. Would Stan Wawrinka maybe beat Nadal? I think it's like a 60-40, but Nadal was just so good that year. So good at hard courts. I have never seen Nadal play so good at hard courts. So I think I just cannot take it away from Rafael Nadal. Therefore, here is a dub, and here is 15. So it's 21-15 going into 2014. So the 2014 season started off great for Rafael Nadal. He beat his arch nemesis Roger Federer in a convincing fashion in the semi-final of the 2014 Australian Open, but then unfortunately for him, he got injured in the final against Stan Wawrinka, the same Stan Wawrinka who ended the real-life winning streak at the Australian Open of Novak Djokovic. So it really doesn't matter if Djokovic exists or not. Stan Wawrinka is winning the tournament and everything stays the same. Semi-final for Roger, final for Rafa. Now let's go to the 2014 French Open. This is actually really funny because Nadal in real life beat Djokovic and Gulbis beat Federer in the 4th round. So who would play Rafa in the final? Ernest Gulbis or Milos Raonic? Yeah, easy work for Rafa, 21-16. Now let's go to Wimbledon. This is going to be interesting because, first of all, Nadal did lose to Nick Kyrgios in the 4th round, but Roger Federer had that epic match and came up just short against Novak Djokovic. But if there is no Novak, who takes his place? Well, it's definitely Marin Cilic or Grigor Dimitrov. And both of those guys actually had success against Roger Federer in a best-of-5 set format. Both of them have already beaten Roger Federer, or later on in their careers have beaten Roger Federer. So, who wins that match? Well, I have to give it to Roger. A little bit of more experience, a lot more experience. And yeah, crowd on his side. He wins his 22nd major and 8th Wimbledon title. Absolutely mind-blowing. Now let's go to US Open 2014. Nadal isn't playing. The defending champion isn't playing. And it was supposed to be Federer and Djokovic in the final, but Cilic and Nishikori decided that it's not going to be like that. So in real life, Federer still loses in the semifinal, and who plays the final? Well, quite possibly actually Andy Murray, because Andy Murray lost to Novak in the quarterfinals. So actually it could have been maybe like a Murray-Cilic final, but it doesn't really matter for this video. So let's go to 2015. Novak Djokovic won that tournament, obviously. But in this world, it doesn't really matter because both of the main characters in this story lost early. Federer, 3rd round, to Seppi, 3-1. And then Nadal, quarterfinal, Tomasz Berdych, 3-0. And the final, I think, would be something like a Stan Wawrinka Andy Murray matchup. Now, let's go to the 2015 Roland Garros. This is super, super interesting. First of all, let's get this out of the way. Federer lost to Wawrinka in the quarterfinals. So here is Federer. Now, would Rafael Nadal win this tournament if he wouldn't lose to Novak Djokovic? I don't think so. I honestly think that Andy Murray, out of all people, would beat Rafael Nadal because Rafa wasn't 100% and Murray actually took Novak to 5 sets. So I think that Andy Murray would end the winning streak of Rafael Nadal at Roland Garros. How crazy is that? Now, let's go to Wimbledon. Another Djokovic-Federer affair. It was 3-1 Novak this time. And of course, Rafael Nadal lost to Dustin Brown in the 2nd round, I think. So therefore, who would take Novak Djokovic's place? I think, again, Marin Cilic or Richard Gasquet. Probably Marin Cilic. So if it's Marin Cilic 2 times in a row, maybe a little bit more experience. But no, I think it's still Roger. I think he wins his 9th Wimbledon and 23rd major. And yeah, Rafa 2nd round loss. And now let's go to the 2015 US Open, another Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer final. So first of all, Nadal lost to Fabio Fognini in 5 sets in the 3rd round. So who would face Roger Federer instead of Novak Djokovic? It would be Feliciano Lopez. Marin Cilic was really tired after the Tonga match. So Roberto Bautista Agut, possibly. Yeah, easy dub for Mr. Roger Federer. And the 3rd round loss to Rafa. So that's 24 majors by the end of 2015 to Roger Federer. So the 2016 season started off really poorly for Rafael Nadal. He lost in the first round of the Australian Open to Fernando Verdasco in 5 sets. But in the other hand, Roger Federer did make it to the semifinal, where he lost in real life to Novak Djokovic, who was the eventual winner. Now, I think that Roger would definitely beat somebody like a Kei Nishikori or a Gilles Simon in a semifinal. He would definitely reach the final, but I just think it's time for Andy Murray to step up and finally beat somebody important and win his, I don't know in this scenario which major, but Andy Murray wins the tournament, Roger Federer only a final, Rafael Nadal first round. Now let's go to France. Obviously Roger isn't playing and Rafael Nadal forfeited/withdrew in the third round. So therefore, there is no Novak Djokovic. Andy Murray wins the French Open. Andy Murray wins back-to-back Grand Slams. He beat Dominic Thiem. He beats Dominic Thiem in the final. So, Andy Murray, back-to-back slams, and he is going to still win the Wimbledon. Andy Murray, back-to-back slams, because Roger Federer still loses to Milos Raonic in the semifinal 3-2. So this is absolutely insane. Andy Murray actually wins 3 majors in a row, and he wins the Olympic Games. So Andy Murray, out of all people, not a non-existing Novak Djokovic, not Roger Federer, not Rafael Nadal, has a chance to be the first male tennis player ever and the second human being overall to complete the in-season Golden Slam. How insane is that? So he's walking into Flushing Meadows knowing that Roger Federer isn't playing. So it's only Rafael Nadal, but Rafael Nadal loses to Luca Pool in the 4th round. How insane is that? So everything stays the same. But then he loses in the quarterfinals against Kei Nishikori. Wow, what a tournament. But wait a minute, there is no Novak. So that means that possibly, Gael Monfils plays his first ever major final. How insane is that? So Andy Murray winning 3 majors in a row and a gold medal. And then on top of that, Gael Monfils playing a final, which he would probably lose to Stan Wawrinka. But yeah, it's absolutely insane. Now, 2017 pretty much stays absolutely the same because Novak isn't a factor, unfortunately. Australian Open, he lost to Denis Istomin. Therefore, it's Nadal Federer in the final and everything stays the same. 2017, Roger Federer beating Rafael Nadal 3-2, 25-16. Absolutely insane. Now, here comes Roland Garros. Federer isn't playing. Classic Rafael Nadal style of tournament, destroying everybody. And yeah, this is really easy. I do not need to waste your time when it comes to the French Open. Now let's go to the Wimbledon. Rafael Nadal lost to Gilles Miller in the 4th round, 15-13 in a 5-set thriller. Novak Djokovic retired in the quarterfinals against Tomasz Berdych. The same Tomasz Berdych who lost to Roger Federer, excuse me for my stuttering, and then Roger Federer beat Marin Cilic. Poor Marin Cilic. He has the same career as Andy Murray. Bunch of semifinals and finals. And I think if he would really play this many finals, he would definitely beat Roger Federer at least once. But yeah, that was the 17th major for Rafael Nadal. By the way, this is the W, and this is Roger Federer winning the 26th major. Now, let's continue to the 2017 U.S. Open. Roger Federer lost in the quarterfinals against Juan Martín Del Potro 3-1. But then Nadal beat Del Potro 3-1, and then he proceeded to beat Kevin Anderson. And by the way, Novak Djokovic wasn't even playing on the tournament, so let's not waste your time. It's a dub for Rafael Nadal. It's 26-18. Now let's go into 2018. Another Australian Open. Another really poor tournament for a not completely healthy Novak Djokovic. He lost to Hyun-Yeon Chung in the 4th round. And then Rafael Nadal forfeited against Marin Cilic, the same Marin Cilic who lost again to Roger Federer. So, I mean, I just couldn't pick a tournament. It's really insane. So I guess it's still Roger Federer. It's absolutely insane. I don't know. 27 majors for Roger Federer. This is absolutely insane. Now, the French Open 2018. Roger is still not playing. Novak Djokovic lost to Marco Cecchinato. And, of course, Rafael Nadal beats Dominic Thiem. Yeah, another Rafael Nadal major, so it's 27-19. Now let's go to Wimbledon 2018. Roger Federer loses to Kevin Anderson in the quarterfinals. So this is really big. But here comes Rafael Nadal playing a semifinal against Novak Djokovic and losing 9-7. But of course, there is no Novak Djokovic. So that means he plays Nishikori, Khachanov, Edmund. Yeah, Nadal has this in his bag. And then he has to play a completely spent Kevin Anderson, who played 2 marathons in the quarterfinals and in the semifinals, especially in the semifinals against John Isner. So yeah, this is easy work for Rafa, winning another 4th overall Wimbledon and 20th major overall. Absolutely insane. Now let's go to the 2018 US Open. Of course, Roger Federer lost to John Millman, in the 4th round. Yeah, that's it. And then Rafael Nadal retired to Juan Martín del Potro in the semifinals. So nothing really changes, but who wins that tournament? So I guess Del Potro wins. I don't know, is this his 2nd or 3rd major? I mean, he could possibly play Kei Nishikori in the final. Yeah, that's easy work for Juan Martín del Potro. I think this is his 3rd major in this scenario. I'm not even 100% sure, but nevertheless, that was 2018. The 2019 season didn't start off well for Roger Federer. He lost in the 4th round of the Australian Open to Stefanos Tsitsipas in 4 sets. But in the other hand, Rafael Nadal did make it to the finals, where he lost to Novak Djokovic. But if there is no Novak, who faces off with Rafa in that final? Well, the answer is kind of underwhelming. It's either Luka Pool, Kei Nishikori, or perhaps even a really inexperienced Daniil Medvedev. So yeah, I know that Luka Pool did beat Rafa at the 2016 US Open, but I have Rafa winning every single time. Therefore, Rafa is going to win his 21st major at the 2019 Australian Open. Now, let's go to France. Obviously, we know that Rafa and Roger faced off in one of the semifinals. And of course, as usual, on clay, Rafael Nadal beat Roger Federer. So here's an SF Roger. But in the other semi-final, it was the eventual finalist, Dominic Thiem, facing off against Novak Djokovic in a 2-day match, rain, wind, complete chaos. It was epic. But if there is no Novak, that possibly means that he faces off with Sasha Zverev. Possibly it means that Dominic Thiem beats him a little bit more faster. So, can Dominic Thiem walk into that final and be fresher? Perhaps. Can Dominic Thiem beat Rafael Nadal in that final? Well, I was actually close to giving him that, but I can't. I think it's still 3-2 Rafael Nadal. I just cannot overturn neither of these Roland Garros. It's just too much. It's just Rafael Nadal. I just cannot give that final to Dominic Thiem. Therefore, it's 27-22. Now, let's go to Wimbledon. Obviously, everybody knows how this ended. So there was a semifinal between Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, and it was Roger Federer coming out on top. But in the final, it was Novak Djokovic saving 2 match points against Roger Federer and overcoming him and the crowd to win his 5th Wimbledon in real life. Now, if there is no Novak Djokovic, that means that Roger Federer faces either David Goffin or Roberto Bautista Agut in the Wimbledon final. Yes, Roger Federer would win his 11th Wimbledon. How about that? And 28th overall major. Now, at the US Open, Roger Federer lost to Grigor Dimitrov in the quarterfinals, 3-2. And of course, Novak Djokovic forfeited to Stan Wawrinka. And of course, Rafael Nadal beat Daniil Medvedev in the finals 3-2. So nothing really changes. Novak has no effect whatsoever. 23rd major for Rafael Nadal and quite of a season. Now let's go to 2020. Now this was kind of complicated for me. This was the last major for Roger Federer. Of course, last major he played or participated. So 2020, he lost to Novak Djokovic in the semifinals, 3-0. And he wasn't playing good in that tournament and he was kind of injured. And if there is no Novak, it means that he faces off against Milos Raonic. And I gave it to Roger with the benefit of doubt. I gave it to Roger 3-2. Okay, he beats Milos Raonic, but he definitely wouldn't beat Dominic Thiem in that final. I think it's Dominic Thiem winning that tournament, therefore here's a final Roger. And of course, Rafael Nadal lost to the eventual winner in this scenario, Dominic Thiem, in the quarterfinals, 3-1. Now let's go to the French Open. Obviously, fresh in memory, everybody knows how it ended. It was Rafael Nadal beating Novak Djokovic 6-0, 6-2, 7-5. And it possibly would be Stefanos Tsitsipas against Rafael Nadal in that final. So yeah, obviously I would have Rafael Nadal still winning. And the 2021 Australian Open, not a lot of things would change because obviously Nadal lost to Tsitsipas 3-2. So it would be Daniil Medvedev against Aslan Karatsev or possibly Sasha Zverev in the finals. But yeah, nothing changes when it comes to a GOAT race. I forgot to add the 24th major to Rafael Nadal. So it's 28-24, but at Australia, nothing happens. Everything stays the same. So yeah, that's 28-24. Imagine that. Imagine having the GOAT race without Novak at 28-24. It looks like an American football score. Now, a couple of takeaways. It's amazing how much Novak actually helped Rafael Nadal or didn't help Roger Federer in this race. So the result, of course, could be a little bit different, but in every scenario, I think Roger Federer loses more with Novak Djokovic existing. It's great because when you look at the results, it's actually 3-1. So Roger Federer has advantage at the Australian Open, Wimbledon, and US Open. But Novak Djokovic is this great equalizer, which makes them to be tied currently at 20 apiece when it comes to Grand Slams. Now, look at the number of slams. This is absolutely insane. So Rafa actually has 3 Australian Opens, 13 Roland Garroses still, 4 Wimbledons, and 4 US Opens, 24 overall, and he won every major at least 3 times, which is amazing. Federer has 8 Australian Opens, 1 Roland Garros, 11 Wimbledons, and 8 US Opens. So Roger Federer won 3 majors at least 8 times. Rafael Nadal won all 4 at least 3 times. How about that? So the question would be, will Roger Federer reach 30 slams? Can Rafael Nadal catch him? Which one is better, to have every slam won 3 times or 3 out of 4, 8 times? So it's absolutely insane. And one of the main takeaways I have is that a bunch of players who were B+, let's say B+ relevant players, like Tsonga, Milos Raonic, Del Potro, Cilic, Berdych, even Andy Murray, would have much more finals and quite possibly a couple of victories at Grand Slams. Now, if you look at the stats, Novak Djokovic, of course, has 18 Grand Slams, but I only added 12 to the totals of Rafa and Roger. So another proof that bunch of B+, quote-unquote B+ guys would win a couple of slams. So really, in reality, Novak Djokovic held a guy like Joe-Wilfried Tsonga or Marin Cilic down. So it's really interesting. So I think that's pretty much it. And yeah, let me know in the comment section what were your predictions and thoughts. How many Grand Slams would Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal have if Novak Djokovic wouldn't be a tennis player? And cut.